send it back. And cook it again, please, and thank you.
If there's one thing Hulu's The Bear makes clear, it's that it doesn't matter if you're making beef sandwiches or a chaos menu. Operating a restaurant is stressful. So why does Sydney want to add getting a Michelin star to the list of concerns?
We have 5 minutes to do this, and we're fucked.
All right.
Okay.
5 minutes.
There are two contradictory impulses in the zeitgeist. Restaurants are one of the hardest businesses to operate, and apparently, we all want our own. 60% of restaurants fail in the first year, and by the 5th year, a whopping 80% have failed. And in culinary cities like Chicago, New York, or San Francisco, that pressure is even higher. Even a successful restaurant will only manage a 3 to 5% profit margin. Despite the high-risk, low-reward element of restaurants, there's just something alluring about restaurants, that they remain on many people's dream list and as the story of how they lost their lottery winnings. Part of that is down to shows like The Bear managing to make running a restaurant look like a nightmare, but a sexy, cool nightmare. Carmy has come back to Chicago to run his brother's restaurant that for the first season served Italian beef sandwiches. The conflict being, aside from Carmy having previously cut himself off from his Chicago home, that he's a fine dining culinary chef who has retained a Michelin star. Season 2 sees Carmy teaming up with the ambitious Sydney, who saw the opportunity to work with a talented chef and talked herself into a position in Season 1. After finding the tomato can money, Carmy and Sydney set about transforming the Italian beef sandwich joint into a fine dining experience called, of course, The Bear. When that money isn't enough, they tap Uncle Jimmy, who had the legitimate claim to the tomato can money in the first place. Since the money had already been invested, Carmy convinces Uncle Jimmy that his best bet is to double down and give them the extra money they need to open. To seal the deal, not only does Sydney suggest that the joint will beat the odds, but by the first year, they'll receive a Michelin star. Bold. But okay, what is a Michelin star? Broadly, a Michelin star is just a place that Bibendum likes to eat. Bibendum is, as we all know, the name of the Michelin Tire Company's mascot. Okay, so you probably know him more as just the Michelin Man. The whole thing is the product of the actual Michelin Men, Edouard and Andre Michelin, founders of the Michelin Tire Company. While in the 2000s, we're trying to figure out how to get people out of cars, in the 1900s, as cars first came into being, people were trying to find ways to get people into cars. One of those ways was the Michelin Guide. It had instructions on how to mount and repair tires, as well as maps of France, Michelin's home country, as well as lists of services including mechanics, hotels, and restaurants. In its early form, it was handed out free and supported by ads, and the fact that itself was an advertisement for Michelin tires. In 1926, they changed things up a bit. They dropped the ads and started charging for the guide, and then came up with their own unique 3-star rating system. What's distinctive about the Michelin star system is that there is no bad rating. A restaurant is either worthy of a star or it's not. So a single star is not bad, it's a badge of honor. A second more so, and a third the highest honor. Stars aren't handed out by having a particularly moody chef sample a handful of dishes off the menu, and then go into the kitchen and ask the chefs what's wrong with them, a la Kitchen Nightmares. Instead, it's part of a super intense series of visits by mystery diner judges who sample not just the offerings on the menu, but the atmosphere and decor, the efficiency of the staff, and the consistency of quality in both food and service. After a process that could take months of evaluations, it's determined if the restaurant gets a star or retains one if it already has one. That's what Carmy did. He retained a Michelin star while as a chef at a restaurant that already had one, which can be just as vigorous and stressful. If the demands are that high and the standards that difficult to meet, why is Sydney so obsessed with getting one? Why is it important that a guide a tire company puts out like their food? Since 1926, Michelin stars have become the highest honor a restaurant can achieve. And just like Oscar buzz, being on the list can increase business. A single Michelin star typically increases traffic to a restaurant by 20%, 40% for a second star, and 100% if you get a full set. While the restaurant gets the star, the notoriety follows the chef. The whole reason Sydney knew who Carmy was and wanted to work with him was Carmy having retained a star. That ill-tempered chef from earlier, Gordon Ramsay, the reason he gets to call other chefs a muppet is because he's collected 17 stars across his restaurant group, with his main restaurant, Restaurant Gordon Ramsay, holding on to 3 stars since 2001. Clever names are not part of the qualifications. Season 2 has not only highlighted the challenge in opening a restaurant full stop, but how exacting those standards have to be while enduring the chaos surrounding serving a lot of people food, as if you're only cooking for them individually. Richie is sent to a Michelin star restaurant to see exactly how meticulous that standard has to be, down to the forks or how a single smudge on a plate disrupts the whole presentation. They even go so far as to send Richie out for a deep dish pizza, just because a waiter overheard someone saying they were leaving Chicago without having had one. Being Michelin star worthy means they have to maintain their level of service, even if Carmy is locked in a freezer, accidentally torpedoing his only hope for a normal human relationship. The real question is, if you binge the series, how long did it take you not to have to fight the urge to say yes chef to any question someone asked? Was that just me? Maybe that was just me.